Step in your poop. This is Milton, and he is obsessed with the camera. Oh, hello.
Hold on.
Oh. Go say hi. Go say hi. What are you doing? So we asked the question. Hi, I don't look as good as he does, so you can put the camera back there. But we asked the question online, like, how much is he worth? And of course, to us, it just, there's no price. He's absolutely priceless. But this calf was actually rescued because he was worth, or considered to be worth, nothing by the person who owned him, the farmer that owned him. So he is a dairy calf who's obsessed with blue pants. And he's in a headbutting mood today and a frolicking mood, which is very good because he's been a little sick. You can see how thin he is. He's still very, very thin. Yes, he is. And he had a person named Nikki. Yes, say, I'm going to lick that camera and give everybody out in the studio audience cryptosporidium. So he is absolutely adorable. So he was getting put in the back of a pickup truck, and there was a couple that was actually going for a drive. It was a really nice night, and Nikki, the person who ended up rescuing him, really loves cows, so much so that her dog's name is Moo, which is a great name for a dog, by the way. So if you like cows and you have a dog and not a cow, name the dog Moo. So Moo and her husband and she were driving around, and they went by a dairy, and because she loves cows, obviously they were paying attention to them. So she stopped because Milton was being put in the back of a pickup truck. And that is not unusual. They go to the sale all the time. These calves go to the sale hours after they're born, days after they're born, it just depends. But they are taken away from mom within the first 24 hours after they're born. And so the farmer was putting him into the back of a pickup truck. When Nikki stopped, she asked what he was doing, and he said, I'm getting rid of him because I can't sell him. My guess is he couldn't sell him because he is very, very small. So even for a calf that's raised for in the dairy, like a boy like this that is a byproduct of the industry, they do sell them. But if they're this small, they're a lot more work and a lot more expense for whoever's going to raise them for veal or beef or whatever they're going to raise them for. He also has what all our calves seem to love to have, and that is cryptosporidium, which is this, and you get a close-up of what we deal with every day. It looks like clay, but that came out of him, and it's green, and flies love it, and it's disgusting. But it makes him very sick. So he's eating really, really well, but he's still not gaining enough weight. We're madly in love with him, clearly. It's not just your teeth, although they're cute. And he will, sadly, outgrow that adorable underbite. It's going to go away, so take advantage of it now with the chiclet teeth. And let's see, yeah, he's absolutely beautiful. This is his yoga pose.
Christina wanted to know how long he will be quarantined for.
Christina, he will be quarantined until this crypto is gone. He will have to have 2 clean fecal tests. We had, sorry, the last calf that we had with crypto wiped out a couple of the staff members, hence these beautiful outfits. We always wear isolation. Always, always, always wear isolation gear when they have crypto. If they have crypto that is like water diarrhea, you have to actually wear the Tyvek suits. It's good to wear a mask because one drop of it can make a human very, very sick. And so we lost a couple humans. They're okay now. They just didn't feel well for a few days or 2 weeks. So you really, ISO is very, very important, and that's why we wear ISO gear. I, for some reason, cannot get this condition even when I've tried. So I don't know. Yeah, see, look, he loves blue pants. And you can see he's like suckling on everything, besides getting his milk 5 times a day. And so he's drinking over 3 gallons of milk a day, still not gaining enough weight. He is also on what's called Resorb, and that helps with his diarrhea and with his electrolytes and everything that he is losing when he has the diarrhea. Right, buddy? Hello. Show them your teeth. Come here. Oh, let me feel. He says I startle easily like a deer. So this again is a Jersey. So Jerseys are used in the dairy industry, and the boys are byproducts of the industry. See, I'm not stepping in any of your poo. Here, get over here so you can see his cute little teeth. Because calves love it when you scratch their chins or scratch behind their ears. Oh, you have a black and pink tongue. You're the cutest animal on the planet. And so when you look at these animals, and you have to think about this. So when we go to the auction, and we do go to the auctions, there are so many calves, and most of the auctions that I've gone to, they're not even giant. They're not the big auctions. Like, I haven't gone to the ones in California for a long time. But the ones just around here in the smaller towns will get 300 to 400 calves at a time, and it's like a couple times a week. So the sheer number of animals that are being, auctioned off, and there's different buyers that are at the auction. So some of the buyers are getting veal, and some of the buyers are getting them just for meat. So they're going to be raising them for beef. That's why when they're this small, and I mean, we've had him for over a week. So when they're this small, nobody's going to buy them. It's not worth even taking them to the sale. So often they'll give them to somebody. God knows what else they'll do with them. Sometimes they're killed. But he, thankfully, was not. And now he's going to live out his life here. And as soon as he starts to feel better, he'll be able to move in with some friends. Clearly, it's like calf year so far. So it seems like every week we're getting calls for calves. Yesterday we got a call to take 11. It's just an impossible number of animals that need homes. And so when we get calves like Milton, we're very, very excited, but at the same time, it's a lot of work. A sick calf is a lot of work. Because he's a neonate, he can easily crash. He has nothing to fall back on. So we have to make sure that he doesn't get dehydrated. We have to take his temperature all the time, and we have to make sure his umbilical cord isn't infected and his joints don't get hot, because a lot of them also don't get the colostrum they need from mom. So they get, again, what's called failure of passive transfer, which is what Sven has, and what Sven actually is still dealing with. As you can see, Sven is not here today because Sven is back at the hospital. And that's the other thing. When you have these calves, you have to constantly pay attention to them. Like, somebody has to see them all the time. You can't just assume they're going to be fine just by feeding them milk and playing with them every once in a while. You have to really be on it, because if they even look like a little off, they'll start to look dull, or they're not as active. There could be something really, really crazy brewing inside. And in the case of Sven, he had his umbilicus removed. So he had his umbilical cord taken out. It's infected again, even though it's been taken out. The actual area that was sutured was infected, so he had to go back in for that, but he keeps getting pneumonia. And most likely that is because he had lung damage due to the fire that he was in. So Sven is back in the hospital, and of course he can't go alone now because he has a friend. So Howard is also in the hospital, and Howard will be neutered while he's there, and he also will get acrylics on his feet, so his feet will get all better. And hopefully that's the dream. And what you can't see that's happening right now is Milton is trying to untie everyone's ISO gear so that they can go without ISO gear and cause them to get sick, because nobody likes to be sick alone.
Annette wants to know if we've ever bought animals from the auctions.
No, Annette, we do not buy animals from the auctions. We have a very strict policy of not purchasing animals, and there's a lot of reasons. Number one reason, I could take 11 calves today, and I don't have room. So I don't ever want to give money into the industry that we're saying is bad and that's treating these animals poorly. So the last thing we can do is really give money, and I know it doesn't seem like it's a lot of money, but any money or any contribution that you're giving to some place that's taking really bad care or no care of the animals, or is seeing them as disposable, is just not what we do. So as of just this year, we've had calls for almost 100 calves. That is absolutely ridiculous. So you never have to buy one. They're being removed from farms all the time for cruelty. So that's why we won't purchase, right? I know, it's hard to believe because you're so cute and then everybody would buy you. And that's the thing. To us, he's priceless, but they're all priceless, and we can't take them all. So sanctuaries serve so many purposes. One of the things that the biggest thing, in my opinion, is that people actually get to meet these animals and touch them. And for people who can't come to the sanctuaries, they get to see them online and see how amazing they are, and you see how people interact with them and see how they interact with each other, and you get their stories. But sanctuaries, even if there was a sanctuary in every single town, it will never, ever, ever solve the problem completely, because you can't rescue your way out of a situation where you're talking about over 9 billion animals die every single year just in the U.S. So no one can rescue that many animals. No one. There's not enough land mass to rescue that many animals, and that's annually. So unless people change their diet, and sanctuaries, that's their job, is to get people to see these guys, like Milton, who is priceless. Priceless you are. See, I would never sell him like for $1 million. They are priceless, and we need people to see them, and that's the goal of what all of us do in every part of the animal rights movement. The goal is to have people see them as somebody, you're not something, you're somebody who's trying to make me sick, but you can't. So we work really, really hard to educate people about where they come from, who they are. He's going to grow up and educate so many people, and he's starting out so cute. He's going to meet all sorts of people. Yes, you are. You're going to meet so many people. People are meeting him all over the place now that are visiting, and so he then represents all the 11 that I can't go get today, and in the 11 that we won't be able to get tomorrow, and the next day, and the next day, and the next day. I wish we could save them all. I think everybody does.
Christina wants to know if we neuter the boys.
Christina, we do. All boys are neutered, and a lot of the girls, depending on the situation. I don't get a lot of girls. If we get girls in young now, we're going to start doing laparoscopic ovarectomies just because it's harder to do as they get older. Because one of the ways they get injured is actually if the males mount the females, or the females mount the females when the females go into heat, because they're such big animals when they're full grown. So in our main herd, our biggest animal is about 3,000 pounds, and our smallest animal is about 400 pounds. And they all live together, and they're all adults. So one of the things that we've been talking about, because I think that's the beauty of farm sanctuaries, we're learning something every single year that we want to try or we want to do. We learn new medical treatments. We don't know how to cure crypto though. We learn tons of medical treatments and ways to deal with these animals, and that's part of what we do. Is we want them to be in our family, and they are members of our family, so we want to make sure that they're getting the best health care possible. You need an intern that just sits here and scratches all your itches, saying, somebody get me an intern. ASAP.
Jennifer wants to know how many calves we've taken in this year.
This year so far, Michelle, Sven, Alex, 6 so far. And then we just took in 3 adult cows as well. Last year, I think we took in like 16 or 17 calves. It really just depends on the year. A lot of times we'll do a rescue where there's 10 all at once, 11 if we would have done this rescue, today. There's a rescue that we could be doing. It's just, again, we don't want to become a farm. So if we have more animals than we can see, we have more animals than we can care for. We're no different than the cruelty cases that these animals come from, because a lot of times the reason these animals are pulled out of farms is because they're dying, and they're dying because they're not getting individualized care. And what we pride ourselves on, and what we will do every single day, no matter how many animals we have, is ensure that they're getting individualized care and that they don't get sick, and that we're watching them and making sure that everything is absolutely the best it possibly can be, even when they have horrible things like cryptosporidium that we can get.
Nikki's on and she says hi.
Hi, Nikki. You're welcome. Thank you, Nikki. Your mom's on.
And then Ellen's wondering what his rescue story was again.
Well, Nikki, who was just on the live feed saying hello to her child, actually stopped at a farm when they were driving around in the evening, just having a nice drive with her cow, with her dog named Moo, because she loves cows. So when she went by a dairy, of course, since she loves cows, she was watching the dairy and looking at the cows, and she saw Milton getting loaded up into a pickup truck. When she asked where he was going, the farmer said he couldn't sell him, so he had to get rid of him. So getting rid of him could mean a number of things. So she asked if she could have him, and guess what happened? He said yes. So she had a baby who she had to sneak into her house, or her rented apartment, or wherever it was, for one day. And then she called us. Moo, the dog, really, really likes this calf. Thankfully, did not eat the poop because that would have been a tragedy. But yeah, so Milton then came here. And it's good because the few things that I think everybody loves the idea of having a calf until they get sick. And when they get sick, they get so, so sick. And I still, to this day, have not had a calf come in that there's nothing wrong with them. The only time that happens is when they're born here and they're with their mom and they're getting all the antibodies from their mom and everything is fantastic. Then and only then have we had healthy calves. Anybody that comes in without mom, beep, beep, very bad, very, very sick.
Cheryl's wondering how old Milton is and what does he weigh versus how much should he weigh.
Well, right now, he should probably weigh like 80 to 85, and he weighs closer to 70. And he's just over a week old, and he's doing okay, but he's just not gaining enough weight. And the concern, and he's very active. So the good news is the only clinical issue that he has is the green clay-like diarrhea that's all over the ground. Last week he actually had almost like water coming out of him from the crypto. So crypto again has to run its course. We can't treat it. So it's running its course. What we do treat are bacterial infections that they get on top of that. And we're also giving him electrolytes. So we're giving him something called Resorb that's trying to like keep him from having the loose like water stool. Because once he has that, he gets dehydrated. So we're always making sure that he's completely hydrated. So right now he's just getting through that, and hopefully the second that's gone, and again we'll do 2 clean fecals once it's gone before he can be with anybody else, so he's not spreading that joy to others. And then he'll be able to go out with other animals, but then he'll also probably gain a lot more weight very quickly.
Christina's wondering how old our cows live to be and we keep them.
If we have a good home, which we have lots of good homes, thank goodness, we do often place the ones that we keep, and we have a few. So right now I think our herd is at, because we just took in the 3 cows, and these guys, our herd's over 50, I think it's like 55. But they're not actually in the herd. But the main herd is over 30, and then there's like 14 or 15 in the special needs herd. But we do keep them, some of them. If they're placeable and they're not going to have health issues forever, and we have a good home, they will go to that good home. The problems that we're seeing now, though, the 3 cows that I just mentioned, came back because sanctuary closed, and we had placed the cows with, well, one of the cows with that sanctuary 14 years before. And so we took him back, but we couldn't leave his people because all of the animals from the sanctuary that closed were going to go to auction if they weren't removed from the property. So we would never separate somebody that had been with his herd for, you know, over a decade, clearly. So we took all 3 of them. You'll be meeting them soon, hopefully. We'll probably do a live feed down at the cow barn so you can meet them as well. But it's hard because, you know, even sanctuaries that have been open like 10 to 15 years often close because they're not really set up to do what they're supposed to do, or they take too many animals in, or they don't have staff, or they don't have, you know, the ability or knowledge to take care of these animals, and things get out of control really, really quickly. So right now our oldest cow was 30, but our girls live to be anywhere from like 23 to 25. The giant Holstein boys, the oldest we've had is 19, because most of the time their legs give out. Usually starting right around 10 years old, you start to have problems with hips and legs with the big giant ones. The Jersey boys usually live into their 20s because they're not as big. They live a lot longer, especially if they stay smaller. And again, the Jersey girls, the one we had the longest was 30 years old. Her name was Dolly. And she was amazing. She would have just loved the dickens out of you, I'm telling you, because our special needs cows, most of them are former dairy girls, and this is their dream boy. So when he comes down there, he'll be very clean, that's for sure. They will clean him. They'll clean you and clean you and clean you. You'll be the cleanest calf in the world. You will. Get a little calyx here and there. You're going to be very popular. And then they'll leave the herd because they'll become boys of teenage years, and they'll start getting too rambunctious with the older ladies, and then they move to the big herd, and they have a lot of people to play with. So the good news is, and we try to do that, anybody that's staying, we don't ever want to have just one calf entering a big herd because they're scared. Usually when an animal is in a herd, they have mom, and since these guys don't have mom, they kind of have like adoptive family members. He's pretending to be a praying mantis. That's his new thing, I think. Ah, delightful. So we'll go on this side of him. You can go around him so you can see his cute little face. Hello. He's going to crawl over and say
Susie,
hello.
Kelly's wondering
Hi,
if
Kelly.
you have nursing moms who are providing milk for him.
We do not. The problem is that the only mothers that I have that have milk also have children. And they are providing milk for their children, even though their children have outgrown that. The problem is I would have to separate that mother from her own child to then give this child milk. And first of all, A, she wouldn't like it, and B, she'd probably reject him because she would be so agitated to be separated from her family. The cattle are very, very family oriented, so we actually made a really silly attempt. Just like last week when we were a couple weeks ago, we were putting people on pasture. We actually tried to separate Cashew and Jerome from the rest of the special needs herd because the teenage boy thing had kicked in, and they were, just really too rough with some of the older ladies, because some of the girls in there are in their 20s, and the last thing they want is some teenage boy butting them and trying to mount their heads. So we were, let's probably get rid of them. No, we wanted to get them into the main herd. Look at the teeth. And so we moved, we immediately tried to move them and thought, let's give it 24 hours and see. And at first, Liz seemed very fine with it, but Cashew never did. So he paced and he paced and he paced. And so we were like, if he does not stop within a few hours, we're putting them back together no matter what. And so we let him down to the barn again. He immediately went and started screaming over the fence. Then Mom started screaming over the fence. Everybody started screaming over the fence. And it was one of the stories that I could tell everybody over and over again. They don't like to be separated from their mothers, even when they're older. So he's a 3-year-old who's still nursing. She will eventually kick him off of her, and then they can still be together. But we really don't want to separate families. And if you're in the wild, you don't separate from your family, unless, I think there's a little bit of a difference, because in the wild, the calves wouldn't be neutered. They'd be bulls, so they would leave because they'd have other things on their mind besides nursing from their mother. But for now, Cashew and Mom are together, and so that's our only milk producer except for Charlie's mom, and Charlie still is nursing and needs to nurse. Sorry.
Had a couple of people noticing that he's been itching a lot and wondering why that is.
He's not itching, he's twitching and itching because there's flies out here. So it's partially, if you notice, they're not all over him. They're mostly all over the poop. And so we have to clean out that poop every single day. But when they land on them, if you just touch a calf, their muscles twitch because they just do. And that's how they get flies off of them. Also, when they're babies, if you ever watch somebody trying to get a calf up, if you just tickle down their back, they stand up. You don't have to be rough with them at all. I think it's got to be an instinctual part of being a baby, because adult cows like it when you scratch their back. But if you're touching their back, they jump up. And I'm sure that's because that's a predation type thing. These animals are very vulnerable when they're little, so they have to be able to pop up very quickly. Yes, they do. Yes, they do, chicklet teeth. Yes, they do.
Lauren is wondering how Charlie is.
Charlie's fantastic. Charlie probably weighs about 600 pounds. He's a big chunk of change. Always with Mom, and his Aunt Jackie, and his best friend Stanton. And so they're actually in the main herd, and it's so incredible to see, because Mom has gotten to a point where she's not totally freaking out if somebody goes near him, so he's challenging some of the bigger cattle and getting knocked around a little bit, and then he runs and tries to nurse because he's embarrassed and sad. So it's an interesting, I think this would be the best place. If I was studying zoology, I would want to come here and just study in these herds, because even though these aren't natural herd structures based on neutering and they're not breeding and those types of things, the herd structure is definitely here. So when you have a herd of 30 animals, you can see there's a hierarchy in that herd, and there's families in that herd that are actually physically moms that gave birth to their babies, and the relationship they have once they enter the herd, and there's just so much amazing information that you could get just by observing them. Right? Yeah, and this is normal itching. This isn't I've got something wrong, because this boy is completely free and clear. But this is what you would call a cow lick, if you ever had one yourself. It got its name from cows and licking. Cow lick. Making little swirlies. You made a little swirly. Here's your dude.
Val asked if we have veterinary staff on site.
No, we don't. But what we do is we train our staff. So if you come here on staff, the first thing you learn as a caregiver assistant is how to feed everybody. So you're learning about diet, you're learning about how we specifically feed, so you're trained on every single part of that. And while you're on that training, you're doing checks. And checks are when we run all the sheep in and we trim their hooves. And so you learn it, you're learning how to halter the animals. You're learning how to trim the animals. You're learning the basic maintenance care. A lot of times during those checks, you'll learn how to give shots. If everybody's being run through to get an injection of an antibiotic or a vaccine, any of those things, that's what you're learning at that point. And then you work your way up to sheds, so you're learning how to do meds on birds. And so there's all these different steps. But by the time you're we got so many levels. So you start out as a caregiver assistant. If you're a master caregiver, you're doing everything. So you're doing you're not doing surgery, because we don't do surgery. We have vets that do that. And we don't want to necessarily do that here, because we also don't have a vet that wants to come and give meds every day. So currently our caregivers that are full caregivers have about 130 to 140 animals on meds every single day, and that's from pain management type meds to antibiotic meds. They do wound management, wound care, they wrap feet, they draw blood, they take fecals, they do everything, and they get crypto. So they do everything across the board, and they maintain the health and well-being of all of these animals. And so anytime, but they're trained here, because you're not going, if you have a sanctuary, you can't rely on a vet to do your maintenance care. You can't rely on a vet to do day-to-day medication. You'd run out of money in the first week. So we have these great caregivers who know how to do injections and know how to do all of the things that these animals need on a day-to-day basis. When we have something more serious that involves like heavier diagnostics, they can go to Cornell, but we have mobile vets that actually come here. So euthanasia is done by our vets, not by us. I don't want our staff having to euthanize, and it's always nice to have that last person saying like, this is a good idea or this is a bad idea. And you also want vets, we get stuff that we still, like I've been doing this now for 23 years, 24 years. I see something new every single month probably, where I'm just like, what is going on? And you want to learn. So you have to keep learning, and you have to keep really active, and you have to keep doing those things, because the other thing that we have by training in-house is you're training people to do things that they wouldn't necessarily get at vet school, because most of these animals don't live into geriatric ages. Most of these animals are not treated for the things we treat them for, because we're trying to keep them alive. Whereas if they're only worth, you for example, how much are you worth? If you were only worth $15, somebody's not going to pay $50 to get you fixed, and they're definitely not going to pay $1,000. And a lot of these calves cost thousands of dollars to fix because they come in so sick, and then they would just be destroyed. So that is the difference between how a sanctuary operates versus how a farm operates. We're not about like how much are they worth to us because they're going to give us this much meat or this much milk or this many eggs. They're worth everything in the world to us because they're no different than a family member. Correct me if I'm wrong. He agreed.
Jennifer's wondering when he was born.
I don't know. We're never going to be able to celebrate his birthday. Nobody knows. I'm guessing he was only about a day old. His umbilicus was dry when we got him. So let's just say, for the sake of saying, 12 days, 14 days ago. And that's why I'm saying he's so small. Like if this was a Holstein, he'd be a whole lot bigger. But except Falco was small too. So it just depends on the animal. But he is very, very tiny. Really, really tiny for a calf. Right? And say 70 pounds is not a lot of weight. Not really. No. You gonna show everybody your cuteness?
Everyone is in love with him and thinks he has the most beautiful eyes.
He does. He looks like a deer. You look like a Bambi deer. Yes, you do. Your name could have been Bambi, Milton. But Milton is more fitting, in my opinion. He's also getting, you'll start to see this, he's getting little teeny buds right here. They're little teeny horns, and they call them buds. I see one popping up. Ooh, sorry. Sorry about that, little bud. Yes, he is. And when you have to watch him, because at night when he breathes, his little nose wrinkles up too. Oh, he's doing it. Got to get close up with that nose. He goes. Everything about him is cute. It's like when you have a baby and you're like, oh my God, wait till you see them pee. Like, wait till you see him do this. Wait till you see him stand up. Wait till you see him sit down. Wait till you see him breathe. It's really bad. Clearly, I haven't had children. I think you're cuter. Yes, you are. You're such a good boy.
Jennifer's wondering if his mom is here.
No, and the sad thing is, the one thing that is of value to a dairy farmer is a dairy cow, and that is the mother, because that is the producer of the milk. So very rare that you are going to get somebody to relinquish a dairy cow to you for free. And they send them to auction between 4 and 8 years old, depending on how much milk they're producing, depending on if they keep, having boys or they're having twins, because then the girl is sterile, and there's all these different reasons to give them up. If they have chronic mastitis, they want them out earlier. So they go to auction. Every once in a while when we're in an auction, there'll be an adult that's down. They're not allowed to sell them. If we can get them up after the sale, they'll let us have them sometimes. Very, very rare. And that's the thing. Like, but cruelty cases, again, I could have taken in 7 right now. They're not producing milk, and they're also very, very sick. But nobody has enough space to take in all these cows. We have gotten calls for cows and calves, like over 100 now since January. It's a lot of animals, and you can only take so many. And other sanctuaries are also full. I mean, we have a whole line of sanctuaries that we call every single time that we know can take care of these animals really well, but there's only so much room. And so, again, the best way for little Miltons not to be born and sent to slaughter is for little Miltons not to be born. And as much as we love little Milton, if every week just locally we're seeing 300 to 400 of them killed, were sold for slaughter or for veal, that's not really a life. So he's like, I wish he could talk, but what is it? Almond milk. He said almonds, I think. Hold on. Cashew milk. He likes cashew milk. Yes. He thinks you should change your diet. And how could you turn this face down? How? Cashews. So we are very excited to have Milton here, and we're always happy every time we have a calf. We really are. And that one of the happiest parts of having him is as he grows up and he's this sweet, wonderful calf, even, he has to get through the teenage thing. But he is going to reach more people than I'm ever going to reach, or anybody else is ever going to reach, because most people don't get to touch these animals. They don't get to see them. They don't get to know who they are. And they don't have to see them. And so when you're making decisions, when you go to a store, you're basing those decisions, the majority of the population, on just going in and grabbing something. Your brain is not like, every time I do this, this many calves get killed. Every time I do this. So it's something that, having animals right in front of you, not only just, again, people that visit us, because we get thousands of visitors a year, but it's also for people that are online that can see him and watch him grow up. And so, like the day that he goes into the herd, we're going to film it. So you're going to be able to see what he's like and who his friends are, and it's going to be really cool. Are you ready? Cashew milk. You're going to meet Cashew. You're going to meet so many people that are just like you. Yes, you are. Oh my God, yes, you are. And you're not going to have crypto anymore. Yes. And he has a person, too. He has a person that's going to visit him, and, till he's a giant. Hopefully until the day he dies. And her husband, actually, I've heard rumor that he went vegan because of you. Because how could you not? Are you kidding me? So these animals change lives every single solitary day. It is very easy to pretend things are not happening when you don't see them right in front of you. So we really want people to see and feel and touch and experience life with these animals, who are no different than dogs and cats. And you don't see people running out for cat milk, do you? No, you don't. So yeah, we want people to really get to know them and see them like we see them. They're our family. They're our friends. So yes, we're friends and family.
Ellen's wondering if he's going to stay here for life or if he's one that we would adopt.
The jury's out on that one, Ellen. I think he's actually going to stay here because we just, you'll be meeting another calf this week or next week. We just took in another calf who's in a little bit rougher shape. And again, sorry, man, we like to have them go into the herd in pairs. It's very overwhelming when somebody that's like 3,000 pounds is running at you and you only weigh a couple hundred pounds. It's just really not cool. But for some reason, your strength in numbers. And I found that because we've taken in groups of 6 babies, and they'll join the herd and they'll immediately start trying to fight the head of the herd. And it's funny because the head of the herd is always gentle, thank God. The giants will it's almost like they think it's funny. It's like when you're holding some kid back with your hand and they're trying to punch you. That's exactly what it's like when you put these calves in the herd, because the adults will push them. But if they're not, when they're by themselves, they tend to just run away. They don't even try to challenge them. So there's a cockiness that comes with having a friend, a little backup. Right on, brother. So he'll have some backup and he'll get to join the herd. And you'll lose your little underbite, but you'll still have that wrinkly nose when you sleep.
Everyone's really excited about the teeth.
Yeah, the teeth are pretty awesome. I like to call them teeth because that's what they look like. Teeth. I think you'd talk like that if you talk. You'd be like, I have teeth. If you look, they do only have these teeth. And up here, which, oh, don't touch up there. They only have a dental plate, so it's gums up top, so that makes it even cuter. So if he rolls his lip, you'll see like gums at the top and teeth at the bottom. And back here, he's got big grindy teeth. So if you put your finger back there, you could lose it. So you don't put your fingers way back in their mouth. They do suck on your fingers, but they don't put them back towards those giant grindy teeth. And the grindy teeth are because they eat like a very high fiber diet, which includes some sticks and leaves and grass and hay and anything that we could not eat comfortably. And they pull, so that's why they have that the dental plate up top, the gums. It's so they get a nice suction and they can yank out grass. Look what I did, just like you. Yeah, he's pretty amazing. It's so amazing to watch them grow up, and so anybody that's like a new caregiver or an intern right now is it's such a special time to have like this baby, because then you get to watch the baby grow up, and as you grow as a caregiver, I mean, because that's what's happening to me. My first calf is still here. He's older. He's 18. He just joined the special needs herd for the first time. His name's Travolta, and he was the first calf that came in when I was a staff member. And he was, like you, only very, very, very sick. He had his colon wasn't attached, and he was a downer at a stockyard. So I have a special bond with Travolta that I'll always have, and that's because, again, he was my first calf, so he is somebody's first calf. You are. You're Nikki's first calf. You're Ty's first calf. You're everybody's first calf. So he has a lot of first calf experience now. And it's such an amazing bond. And we really just want people to see them the way we see them. This animal is no different than the love that you have for your cat or your dog. For me, your child. It's a family bond. It's a bond no different than any other being that you bring into your family. And so our family just has a lot of bigger family members. Right? Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to wrap it up. Up. He's going to do a little more yoga for the wrap up so you guys can see that calves are really good at yoga. Are you almost ready for sleep? God, he's an angel. Anyway, thank you again. Thank you always for tuning in. And so many surprises await on every Thursday. So next Thursday, who knows? Who knows what's going to happen? Maybe we'll see Milton again. Maybe Sven will be back from the hospital. It sounds like a soap opera. Maybe Sven will meet the love of his life. Maybe not. Maybe Howard and Sven will get in a fight. Nobody knows what's going to happen next week, but next week is coming, so tune in on Thursday. Maybe you'll get to see him playing, because right now he is tired. And have a great day, and remember, cashew milk. Cashew!